This original WSRE presentation is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you.
With gas prices creeping up every week, it's small wonder we see so many cyclists on the road. The state of Florida is just about perfect for bicycle terrain. No mountains to exhaust you and no snow to freeze you. Cycling is a 12-month activity in Florida, but it can also be dangerous and even fatal. Hello, I'm Lloyd Patterson, and this is CTC, connecting the community here on WSRE PBS. Our focus today, sharing the road with bicyclists, and our guest includes Steve Fiker of Shalimar, the president of the Emerald Coast Cyclist Club, and he says he's had closer brushes with death on his bike than on his previous job, piloting an F-111 jet in the Air Force. Also with us tonight, Randy Bullock of Pensacola is here representing the West Florida Wheelman Cycle Club. He works in the operating room at Sacred Heart and has been cycling for 25 years. Also here we have Alex Fox with the Pensacola Police Department's Community Services Division, has been about 3 years in the unit involving bike patrols. And also here, Sergeant Ted Roy of the Escambia County Sheriff's Office, and he has had some 10 years where among his duties he has been on a bike enforcing laws, not just road laws of the road, but all other laws that make it easier to catch guys sometimes, I'm sure, on a bicycle than in a car. Welcome to the program. I appreciate you guys all being here tonight. I know cycling can be a pretty dangerous thing. Steve, you've had some close calls.
A few.
Tell me about one.
Several years ago, I was right in front of McDonald's on one of the local highways, and as I was passing by, a truck came up behind us who was planning on turning into the parking lot. And when he started to turn in, he sort of fixated on the cyclist in front of me, didn't really notice that I was there, and he basically turned right into me. And the first thing I realized is I saw a big bumper coming at me. The next thing I realized, I was a pinball basically being bounced into the grass next to the road, and basically crashed into the grass, and ended up breaking a cleat off of my shoe and bruised my ankle a little bit.
No broken bones, though?
No broken bones, and the driver was very apologetic. He was very, very helpful trying to get me back going again, and we shook hands and parted on good terms, and it was all over and done with.
Good. Randy, how about you?
Well, in the years that I've been cycling, I've seen pretty much most of the mistakes that motorists can make in front of me. Running traffic lights, they will turn in front of you, they'll fail to yield to you at intersections. People with trailers that don't quite really realize that you're there. I haven't had any direct contacts with cars, but I certainly am aware of people that have.
Officer Fox, you had close calls?
Yeah, the same incidents, people not paying attention for the bicyclists out there. They're so used to seeing vehicles, they'll go through a stop sign not realizing that there's a cyclist right there in front of them and having to miss cars and incidents like that. When we've had officers that have been struck by vehicles while riding a bicycle.
And Sergeant Ted Roy.
Same thing as the other guys. Sometimes we put ourselves in that, where we're used to being in a police car. We make contact with a bad guy, and then they're in a vehicle and they take off on us, and we don't have the protection of our vehicle around us, and we have a bike, and they run over our bikes before, and a few things like that.
It all comes down to, doesn't it, a large part of it is that motorists tend not to see bicyclists as being equals on the road, that they have any right to be there. Is that the way you sort of read the situation?
I think a lot of these guys will probably agree. A lot of times they'll look right at you, and they'll still go. It doesn't register that you're a bicycle coming at them.
And that you have any rights.
Right, they'll just look at you, and you think you've made eye contact. A lot of times that's important from these cars coming out of the side roads if we're on a main road, and they'll still come up right out in front of you. So you always got to be wary.
I think the bigger problem is they just don't see us. I mean, especially if you're riding by yourself, we're just not a very big target, especially when you're used to looking for other cars and even looking for motorcyclists. We just don't stand out as much as other people do.
Yeah, it's a big part of that is just trying to be seen and try to make yourself as visible as possible, but still, you know, you have to assume that even if they do, motorists do look directly at you, that you still may have to take some evasive action if they're at a stop sign or something like that.
Officer Fox, is it hard to get through motorists' heads that these cyclists have an equal right to the road?
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that. When operating a bicycle, you have just as much right as you do on the roadway. They are considered a vehicle on the roadway. And cyclists have to obey by the law, such as stop signs and red lights, just as well as motor vehicles. And so they need to be aware of that.
But a cyclist does not have the right to take his share of the road right out of the middle of the lane, does he? He has to stay over to the far side, doesn't he?
If the road is less than 14 feet wide, then actually cyclists are allowed to move into the roadway. But you know, we all try to be smart and to be courteous, and we always really try hard to stay over to the far right side of the road to not impede the traffic going by, because you know we want to be good citizens, and the last thing we want to do is make people mad at us. So we really try to stay out of cars' way.
I was going to say it's very, very rare for, you know, if you're riding with a group, you know, like we'll go out, we usually ride at least 4 or 5 guys, and every now and then we may try to take over a lane if we're going to try to turn left or something like that. But other than that, even if it's a small road, we don't ever try to take over the road.
Officer Cox?
Yeah, it's important that you know, these bicycles, they'll stay on the shoulder, just as he said. I mean, you need to be aware that a vehicle is going to take up more of the space, and not to impede the flow of traffic as well. And most of the time, the bicycles do that.
We have some statistics showing the number of bicycle accidents and injuries over the past 5 years, actually ending in 2009. But as you see here, Escambia had 390 bicycle injuries in the last 5 years, 12 fatalities. Okaloosa, 159 injuries, 7 fatalities. Santa Rosa, 70 injuries, 2 fatalities. And Walton, about half as many injuries as Santa Rosa, but also 2 fatalities. And not too long ago, here in Escambia County, or rather it was in Okaloosa County, where we saw a man who had been riding across country to raise money and raise awareness about the oil spill victims. His name was Roger Gruters, 66, of Gulf Breeze. He was killed when he was struck by a car, and it was such an awful thing. He was a man who contributed much to the community, and he'd ridden clear across the country, hadn't he? And he'd just gotten back into this area. He
started out in California, was riding all the way to Jacksonville, and was struck and killed on Highway 20 east of Niceville. And my club was on that same road this past weekend, riding as a matter of fact, and he was doing such a good thing for such a good cause, and then his life was over. It was just so sad.
Were you surprised when you read that? I mean, here's an experienced bicyclist, and you'd think it would, somebody like that would really be cautious, know all the rules of the road, and somebody got careless, I guess.
I mean, I've heard of it. I don't know the exact circumstances, but I doubt it was probably anything he did wrong.
Right.
Probably someone in a car, on the phone, changing the radio, texting somebody really quickly. That's probably what caused it.
And which brings me to the next question. In that most of the injury, fatality accidents that you have, is it the fault of the cyclist or is it the fault of the motorist in these?
The numbers that, at least nationally, the numbers show that about half the time cyclists have done something wrong and about half the time motorists have done something wrong. So it's a pretty even split. And you know, the sad thing is that whenever someone does something wrong or something inadvertent or accidental, it's usually the cyclist that ends up paying for it, because we lose in the collision. You know, we never end up coming ahead.
Yeah, you can be legally right, but also banged up in the hospital.
Well, I think we try to be flexible on the road. We follow the law. The one thing you can't, guard against, there's nothing that can really help you if someone hits you from behind, as Mr. Gruters was killed from someone hitting him from behind. Years ago, Dr. Fenner McConnell was also, that's one of our club does a fundraiser for him every year in his memory. But for what is happening in front of you as a cyclist, you try to take responsibility for what is happening in front of you, and try to be flexible in that you can really look at what motorists are doing in front of you. Be aware. That is our best defense.
And these are the statistics that we just showed you a moment ago, those are the ones that are the reported ones. And I would assume, and wouldn't you say, officers, it would be fairly safe to assume that not everyone who gets involved in a bicycle accident reports it?
No, I mean, we've had guys impaled by sticks, you know, going through trails, trying to, you know, sneak up on say, an apartment complex. Guys hit, you know, trying to, those curbs with big grates in them, falling, going over the handlebars, and, you know, we don't go report those. So
But
I'm
you
sure
should.
there are many, many more.
Shouldn't you, I understand, report if you're involved in an accident where you get an injury? You should let the police know about it for legal purposes?
Well, you know, if you're just like riding your bike on your own and you just
No,
and you hit another
if there's a
vehicle.
brush with another vehicle.
Yes.
And you just, even if it's just a bruise, it doesn't have to be broken leg, anything like that. You should report the accident, correct?
I would think so, if not only for insurance purposes, but you know, the statistical purposes are very useful, you know, in trying to track exactly where the problems are.
You definitely need to keep in touch and see where these accidents are happening. It's a reoccurring accident that's happening on a particular roadway. Something maybe need to be done with maybe a bicycle lane or something to the effect of traffic needs to be aware of bicyclers, or this is a main thoroughfare for bicycles. So need to say, okay, we need to report this and keep this in a log system somewhere.
There are national bicycle clubs that keep track of these things, and they rate various cities based on how bicycle friendly they are. And no Florida cities are in that mix that I saw, which is a little surprising because it's so flat in Florida for the most part. But do you, as you look at this area, is this a good biking area? Is this a bike-friendly area for the most part, or no?
I would say not very friendly because we don't have very many bike lanes in the cities. And when we go ride as a club, we basically try to get out of the cities and go ride in the country where there are fewer cars and less congestion. And so it's not a real friendly area to ride in. And sometimes we have to drive 30, 45 minutes just to start a ride, just so we can get away from the traffic and get away from the other people.
Randy?
My experience in commuting and riding in Pensacola is that there's a lot of improvements that can be made. I haven't been to any, I must admit, I haven't been to any city that I would say was exponentially really a great city to ride in. You know, Chicago, different New York, a city of this size, you know, Mobile, for example. There's just, you know, for a city this size, I don't think that we're that much worse than any other city in this region. We do need to develop more bike lanes. We do need to develop more biking infrastructure. And I think this, you know, having programs like this and getting more cyclists involved in that process and communicating with our city and our city officials that these are the things that we would like to have is a great start. And I think we can improve on that in the future.
I know the officers, you can't get political about this, but just as riders yourselves, do you think this is a good cycling area?
I do not think it's a good cycling area. And we spend a lot of our times in like in drug areas and stuff. But when we're out riding, just to be out, you know, with a bunch of people, I would love to ride Scenic Highway from 9 Mile Road down to Savannah Street. But I've never done that. It'd be horrifying because you have no room. You know, this is probably not the forum for it, but I sure would love a bike lane up Scenic Highway or a bike path or something like that where you could see that view. It'd be nice. And I'm sure guys from Okaloosa, Walton, and further out would come just to ride that area. But it's not friendly.
Officer Fox?
Yeah, I'd say no as well. Pensacola is just growing in population-wise. It's so greater, and you try to go 9th Avenue at 5 o'clock or Davis Highway at 5 o'clock, and there's no way you could ride a bicycle up there. It's just, it'd be too much. And so, as of right now, no. Pensacola right now would not be the best place to be riding a bicycle in traffic as well.
If you just joined us, you're watching Connecting the Community here on WSRE PBS for the Gulf Coast. I'm Lloyd Patterson, the host of the program. Tonight, we are talking about cyclists and the dangers of cycling here in Northwest Florida. It should be a good place, you would think, because there aren't any mountains or snow around here, but it's a challenge. And as our guests have told us tonight, they've had some close calls of their own. We have from the Emerald Coast Cyclist Club, we have Steve Fiker. Randy Bullock is with the West Florida Wheelman, which is based out of Pensacola. We have Officer Fox, who rides a bike for the Pensacola Police Department, and Ted Roy, a sergeant with the Escambia Sheriff's Office and who has many years of riding a bike. Now, we just got through saying that you didn't think Pensacola, Escambia, Northwest Florida were really great places for, aren't the places they could be for bicycling. Having said that, established that, you still think people, you still encourage people to ride their bikes for health reasons, for sociability reasons. What are some good reasons to get out on your bike?
It's fun. It is just, I used to be a runner, and after I hurt my knee, I couldn't run anymore. And I started cycling not because I wanted to, but just because I wanted to get the exercise. And it turned out I'm having so much more fun on a bike than I did when I was running. I wish everybody knew that, because it is a fun thing to do. And it's also, the exercise is so good that I actually have to eat more than I want to in the summer just to keep the weight from getting too low. It's a great form of exercise, just great.
And you speak as a man who has beaten cancer a couple of times.
Several times.
And you seem to be the picture of health right now.
I feel that way.
Randy, you encourage people to get into cycling for what reason? What's a good case you can make for it?
Well, I think that it is a good form of recreation. There are, we did speak, you know, we all agree that there are improvements can be made in Pensacola, but there are some areas in Pensacola that you can ride with a reasonable amount of safety. We're not talking about extensive, long riding, but as long as you're visible, if you plan your route very carefully, and you know, in the future, we would like to try to do more beginner education for my club with people who are starting out cycling, to try to answer some of those questions about safety and people's fear of being on the road. But it is a great way to commute. It's very good for your health. It can be very safe, and the more you do it, the better you get at cycling. It's like anything. It becomes more safe as you gain more experience. But you know, clearly there's improvements that can be made. But it is very good for your health, and it's very good for your spirit as well, to get out and experience things outside the car.
Yeah. Randy, see, we're going to show your website information in just a few minutes, but people might think in order to be in a club, you have to be really good on a cycle, have to be experienced. Do you take in people who are newcomers? Or?
You know, we occasionally will have training sessions to bring in brand new people that, you know, hardly know anything about riding a bike, especially in a group, and train them to try to get them up to speed so they can ride with us. And you don't have to be a superstar to ride in a bike club. You really don't. You can have a great time. And bike clubs are social organizations too. I mean, it is a really fun experience just to interact with other people. It is a neat experience.
It is.
Newcomers and old-timers welcome
Certainly,
at the club?
For
you have
example,
an age limit?
You know, I always use an example at the Finner Ride, which we have every October in Milton, as a fundraiser for Big Brothers Big Sisters and the Blackwater Heritage Trail in Milton, which is an excellent place to ride for beginners. We do have people from, I think, I've had riders in their 80s, and I also have people that bring their children out to ride in that event. So there is a place for everyone. There is a place for everyone. We try to make that place available, and we try to provide some education for new riders.
Officers Fox and Roy, speaking of the health benefits of riding, I would imagine you two would be among the healthiest, fittest people in your departments because you ride so much. Is that fair to say?
I would say it's probably true. We have a course we put on for the officers. We have over 400 sworn officers, but only 56 of us are bike certified that have been through the course. Others have tried to go through it and they haven't made it. So you know, they washed
out from the bike course.
They washed out from the bike course. They weren't in good enough shape. They thought they were because 15 years ago they used to ride their bike a lot.
Yeah.
But you know, they're not 15 anymore, or 18. So we have a course we put them through, make sure they're in good enough shape, because we don't want them, you know, riding for 5 or 6 miles and we get in a confrontation with a suspect, and they're sitting on the side of the road with their hands on their knees because they're, you know, unable to help us.
So you have to, you have to be in shape to get in the bike unit, and
Correct.
then you have to stay in.
Yes.
Stay in shape as well. Officer Fox?
I believe so. I mean, we ride, we log in a lot of miles. With a lot of miles you log in, you're definitely going to reap the benefits, and one of the benefits is cardio. And so we definitely have an advantage on that. And that officers that take that extra step and elect to do the bike unit or work a side job that includes a bike, they reap the benefits as well.
Now tell me the truth. Is riding a bike considered in the law enforcement world to be a little bit less status than riding in a squad car?
No, I wouldn't say so. I would say when it first, probably 10 years ago, 10 years ago when it first started, people would say, man, what are y'all doing riding bikes out there? And they would think we were absolutely crazy to get out in certain communities at night, like say Brownsville. But I mean, that's where we have our most fun, is back in those neighborhoods. And now I have people requesting the classes all the time, but we don't put them on maybe once or twice a year now, because we have plenty of officers. But now more of the younger guys want to get into it, which is good.
You see that more and more. Younger officers that are coming on to the department, they're trying to get into our division, that they want to get involved. They see we get into a lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff, both in law enforcement and otherwise, riding parades and stuff like that, and they want to be a part of that. So it took a turn. It's a good turn.
Well, that's the thing that the cycle club guys talk about, is that they see a different world on a bicycle than you see with a windshield up in front.
Well, everything changes on a bike. I mean, you know, marijuana, for instance, we're riding. If you're riding the cruiser down Avery Street, you know, you may ride right by a garage where there's 5 guys in there smoking marijuana. Well, when you're on your bike, I mean, you know, you hear glass breaking. I'm sure you guys have heard that right in the neighborhoods. You can smell marijuana burning. You can hear screaming. I've rolled up on more calls on my bike than I ever have in a police car. I mean, like in progress calls.
Yeah, that's interesting. How about you, Officer?
Or just, you know, we were talking about that earlier. People just realize other cars and such. They don't realize bicycles. Well, that goes the same for people just walking around in a neighborhood. They're looking for a police car. They're looking for a big cruiser with lights on the top. They're not expecting a bicycle to come rolling around the corner, and they're shocked. And it takes them a couple seconds to realize, is that a police officer or not? And time to do is too late, and we're right there next to them.
That's what you enjoy so much about bicycling, aside from saving the gas, aside from the health benefits and having fun with friends on it, is that you get to see a world out there off the beaten path a lot of times that I probably don't see at all, because I'm not tuned into what the wildlife or what's going on around close up.
You're going faster than you do in your run, so you don't have to see the same scene for a long time, but you cover a lot of miles and you see a lot of different things. It is really enjoyable, especially early mornings in the summer. It's just gorgeous to go out and riding. Very nice.
Randy?
It is, and you know, it's the Santa Rosa County, the Blackwater Forest is a fantastic. It's as beautiful as anywhere I've ridden in the world. No kidding. The beach. How many places in the world can you ride down the beach? In the spring and the fall especially, and there's very little traffic, you know, on the beach. That is a terrific privilege to live in this area and be able to do that. So it's fantastic. And speaking, we're talking about your senses, your hearing, bike safety. Part of bike safety is hearing what's going on around you. So riding in the city, you are very cognizant of what is going on around you, the cars that are coming behind you, the cars that are the people that are walking on the sidewalk. You hear everything. The idea of getting out in the country, of course, is just to zone out and to sort of listen to what things are. Hopefully not a dog chasing you, but which can happen. But just getting out and enjoying that is terrific. And this is a great area to do that.
Yeah, sometimes I see people riding their bikes and have the earbuds in. I assume they're listening to some.
That's not dangerous.
That's actually against the law here in the state.
Yeah.
It is against the law?
It's against the law. It's our club doesn't allow it because it reduces your ability to hear what's going on around you.
Well, that's true for runners, pedestrians, cyclists. Anytime you take away your hearing is as valuable as your eyesight, and you're doing yourself a great discredit by doing that.
Do you tell me about what laws you enforce? Not marijuana laws or anything like that, but on bicyclists, because you guys are close to the cycling world. You know, where you're really acutely aware of what's dangerous, what's risky. Do you stop people and say, hey, look, you shouldn't have the earphones on, earbuds, or
Yeah,
How
we don't have a lot of.
do you get?
Well, I don't get a lot of guys with the earphones. At night, a lot of guys have no lights on their bikes at all. And we'll roll up on them and we won't even see them till the last minute.
They can have reflectors but no lights?
They won't even have reflectors. They'll have nothing on them. And like, you know, gives us a reason to stop them, see what they're doing out in the neighborhood at night. We have, you know, we can write a ticket for someone under 16 years old that doesn't have a helmet on. Have I ever written a ticket to a juvenile under 16? I have not. But I've driven with them a block or two to the parents' house and say, hey, why don't you spend $25? Your 8-year-old's out in the middle of the road, and you know, if they fall off their bike or get hit, if it's not their fault, you know, they could have a brain injury. So we've done that, but we've never issued a ticket for a bike helmet violation. If they spend that $35, we're going to write them and go buy the helmet.
Okay. Will you accommodate the club members who want to get a speeding ticket?
Oh,
will you,
absolutely. I'll get a radar unit out.
Will you help them out a little bit so they can wear their speeding
badge of honor?
Badge of honor,
yeah.
Yes.
Officer Fox, have you had, what's your experience with enforcing bicycle laws?
We mainly see, as Sergeant Roy explained, we mainly see the a light on the bicycle is our main problem at night. Just as I said earlier, bicycles are considered vehicles of the roadway, and if you're going to operate a vehicle at night, you have to have a light on it. And that's the same goes for a bicycle. So that's kind of what we see mainly. But you know, we try to stay current on the statutes out there for bicycles. It's 316.2065. If you look in that statute there, it's all your bicycle laws and safeties. And
there are real laws covering bicycles, and they treat them just like a motorcycle, a truck, a car. A bicycle has an equal right to share of the road.
You can get a DUI on a bicycle, same as it would be if you were in a car.
You can? Mm-hmm. Have you ever given a DUI for
I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Intoxicated bike riding?
No, I have never. Have I seen them? Like Pensacola Beach, they think they're doing the right thing because they're not driving their car home. So they get on these little beach cruiser bikes. But a lot of times we'll tell them to walk, you know, get home, or we'll drop them off down the road. But I've never done a DUI for a bicycle. I know it's been done here, but personally I have not.
Okay, well,
Lloyd, in Okaloosa County, there have been several accidents with bicyclists that have involved the bicyclist being intoxicated. And I've seen that in the sheriff's reports. So it does happen.
Okay, and quickly, you have 4 bicycles, Steve. How many bicycles do you have?
I just have one.
Just one? And how many bicycles do you two have? You just ride
I just have one that belongs to me at the department. It's departments, but I use it as well as officers in our division each have one.
Okay.
Personally, I have 2. I have a road bike and a mountain bike. And then our department, we have 18.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We have Ted Roy, Officer Fox from the Pensacola Police Department, and our club guys, Steve Fiker and Randy Bullock. And if you want more information about the club, we're going to put it on the screen right now. It's the Emerald Coast Cyclists, www.ecc cyclists, well, you can see what it is, West Florida Wheelman. Also, bikeflorida.org is an organization with some good information, too. Thank you for being with us on our program this evening, and thank you for watching WSRE. I'm Lloyd Patterson. Good evening.